Hello, how are you guys doing?
Hello,
Hi,
hi
Terence.
Vyasa. Hello, everyone.
Hi,
Hi.
Jacy.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Yeah, a lot of people are actually celebrating Thanksgiving here, right here in Malaysia also.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay, so friends, today we have Terence Tan and JCV, who are the authors of the newly released book, Dance of Intimacy, right? And of
Mhm.
course, this particular topic has got a lot of people very interested and talking about it, asking a lot of questions. Um, so, what's your experience writing this book out? Why did you write this book out?
Well,
Christine
writing
was
this book, yeah, okay. Writing this book for me has been a dream. I've always wanted to write a book, but I never knew what to write about. And the first thing that came up first is relationships, because this is something which is very close to my heart personally. Yeah. And I felt that it's so important to for couples to build conscious relationships, because with that, we can truly, I would say, change the world, because that creates a lot of peace at home, peace and love, and from there it will ripple out to our environment. So that's one of the reasons why I decided to write this book together with Terence and Jamie.
Wow. And we have one more author who is not here today, right?
Yes,
Jamie Lee, right?
Jamie
So,
Lee. Yeah.
Terence, both of y'all are also like men are from Mars and women are from Venus coaches here in Malaysia. I think one of the first few, right? So, how was your experience in getting this book out? Terence has disappeared.
Terence has disappeared.
Yeah. So
Well,
when did you all bring the Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus franchise here to Malaysia?
officially, it will be in December. That's why we will officially launch it in Malaysia. But we have been with Men Are From Mars, as or with Mars and Venus for the last 4 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Terence, we were just
Mhm.
talking about Mars and Venus, right? The
Mhm.
franchise to bring it here to Malaysia. Uh,
Mhm.
why did you all bring uh, Mars and Venus to Malaysia?
Why? Okay. Well, I guess in this part of the world, it's like it's kind of like people have problems with their relationship, and when people have problems with relationship, what this part of the world they are very good at is they are very good at hiding the problem. They show the public that they are loving, they are happy, and suddenly they're divorced. It's like out of the blue, huh? What happened? I thought they're happy and all together, and suddenly, like they're no longer together. So that is like, I'm like, why is that happening? And a couple of it is some social stigma that we don't talk about relationship to other people, and the other part is like, there's some cultural thing as this is like this kind of thing is shameful and it should stay within the family and we should not talk to other people about things that's shameful that we cannot handle relationships. Well, that's kind of like what's really happening in this part of the world and the last 20 years, and this is kind of what I noticed. And what I want to do is to tell people that you don't have to do that, in the sense that, like, if you have a problem with your car, you don't ask an accountant to fix it, you ask a mechanic. But like
Right.
in relationships, people have problems. They don't have expertise to do it themselves, but they want to do it themselves. So I found this very interesting. So I'm just bringing this into this part of the world so that people will know that there is an option like this. It is not like counseling, it's not therapy, it's not anything. It's like you have another option to talk to, and where it is more light and people that has a lot of experience that could support you through whatever you go through. It doesn't have to be shameful. It doesn't have to be embarrassing. And it's kind of like this is a worldwide thing that people are getting into now, so people can be okay with it. So that's kind of why I want to bring it to Malaysia to give people more access to it. But if you
Okay.
talk about therapy and counseling, they feel like it's something very very major. But this one is like, okay, this is lighter.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Okay. Awesome. So, friends who have just joined in, right? Terence and Jacy and Jamie also, Jamie Lee, who's not here today, the authors of the new release book, which is actually, I'm just going to put it up here. It's going to block you, Jacy. It's called Dance of Intimacy: 3 Steps to Rekindle Intimacy with Your Partner, right? So it's a very interesting topic. Even I notice a lot of us actually don't really talk much about this. And if intimacy just drops, we just take it as probably just a norm. So when we talk about 3 steps to rekindle the intimacy, it's good. It's very interesting. It raised a lot of eyebrows, and of course, it brought up a lot of interest in the community, right? So let's just quickly say hello to a few friends who have dropped in to say hello. We have Joseph Ng, we have James
Oh,
Fung, Captain James Fung, and then we have Jayrani from LinkedIn, and then we have, of course, Mui Han. I think you all both know Mui Han, right?
yeah.
Right. Okay. So the men here who are following today's talk, just say you are from Mars. And the women who are following today talk, just shout out, we'll have a lot of games in between. So just shout out that you are from Venus, and then we will do some uh, games. All right. Can you all do that right now as we go on to the topic? At least Terence and Jacy will know who's here. Okay. So today we will tackle some subjects. I think in the book, one of the very interesting books right up in front is it starts with a series of questions. All right. So some of the questions that was raised up. Do you feel that your relationship could use a jumpstart? Right. Do you find that you and your spouse are drifting further apart? Are you unable to connect with your partner and share your heart, right? Like you once did when you were dating. You suspect there's some secrecy in your relationship. You feel like you and your partner are no longer on the same page, okay? And you are unable to tell him or her things without being in reaction, right? Sometimes we just react very fast, sometimes stress, anger. What would it be? All right. So these questions actually uh, really made me a lot of very, very curious. So what are some of the reasons actually people start, when we first start dating at the beginning of a relationship, it's also exciting, also, lively, we look forward, and then slowly it starts the excitement, this initial excitement starts going down. First after your honeymoon period is over, after a few years, and then after that kids come and then it goes down even further. And sometimes you don't even realize it because there are so many responsibilities and all, right? So why does this happen actually?
Let's hear
No.
from Mars.
Well, if you look at it, the science of it is called newness. It is like everything new is exciting. If you like got a new job, exciting. Okay, got a new hobby, exciting. New car, the car is exciting. New bicycle is exciting. New wife, it's exciting. That's all. And then after a while, if you look at it, when you get a new car, the first 2 years you take really, really good care of it. After a while, it's like, okay, there's a bit of scratch. It's okay, it's a car. And after a few more years down the road, it's like, it drives, it works, that's it. The excitement disappears. And this is just the science behind it. Now, what happened is like it becomes a norm just because the society, a lot of people is actually going through this. They say, oh, after 4 years, what do you expect in a relationship?
Right.
Yeah. Oh, it's supposed to get boring. Oh, yeah. Okay. So it becomes an acceptance that that's the way through because a majority of people that we spoke to and a lot of the society says that, oh, that's how it is. But it doesn't have to be that way. So that's kind of what happened. And I just want to speak about newness a bit more in the sense that for everything like that, then we look at it, it becomes a shadow. Because when you start, you go for new places today. You do things you've never done before. So the thing is that when you do things you've never done before, it's exciting. But once you settle down, you stop doing new things you have not done before. That's kind of why it starts to get boring. You don't go to new restaurants. You don't go to a new adventure. You don't pick up new hobbies together. So it starts to get boring, and the things is the same, becomes routine. When people talk about kids, is sometimes it's two or two things. One is priority. Since you brought up kids, it's like some family put their kids on top of their relationship. So when a kid is on top of the relationship, so the kids go first. Then when the kids win, the relationship suffers. So it is a choice. I'm not here to say that you should not do that, but some people believe it that to be true. Then the kids prosper, but the relationship suffers. So that's why there's a lot of couples that don't stay as a couple after 10, 15 years. Their kids grew up really, really well, but they say, I'm done with you. And then as adults, they say, oh, it doesn't work with your parents, so the kids grow up and the parents split. So that's kind of what happened when they put kids above a relationship. But when you have kids as well, what happens is kids needs a routine. So the family has more routine. It becomes more boring, more this, more that. Therefore, it's like it goes down the drain and intimacy goes out of the window. That's kind of like usually why it happens. Jacy, you want to chime in and share your part of it?
Yes. Newness is definitely one part. So just imagine the first time you got together as a couple. You are always on each other's mind. The time you wake up, every moment of the day, you're thinking about them, what they're eating, are they doing well, are they taking care of themselves, what can we do tonight? Before we sleep, we are also thinking about them. But as we progress, just have a look. Are they still at the front of our mind? Do we still put them as our priority? And, bringing kids in, how many parents here allow your kids to sleep in the same bed with you? And for how many years? Does that allow you to be intimate with each other? So there's something to really look at. How our environment has changed because our priority has also changed. And the thing that sometimes happens is like what Terence said, we get into a routine and we emulate the relationships that we grew up with. They were our role models. And if those relationships are what you see, which is parents, after being together for 30, 40, 50 years, they may no longer be sleeping in the same room, right? They may be, when they sleep with each other, or they don't really show their affection in front of their kids. So when we grow up, do we also follow their footsteps? So this is where what we intend to do is create a lot more consciousness, that we do have a choice. We can choose the kind of experience that we want to have in our relationships, and that is going to take effort. Are we going to do what's convenient and easy? Like Terence says, you go to the same place, same restaurant, do the same thing together every single day. It is predictable. Or do you have a way to schedule into your routine some playtime and some fun time? So this is something that we also share in our book, The Dance of Intimacy. And that's what is so important. It's going to take effort, and it takes two to tango.
Right. Okay. So today we're going to talk a lot about intimacy, right? And more importantly, how to rekindle intimacy. So what is intimacy? I think men will define intimacy differently, and women define intimacy differently. So how do men normally define intimacy? So that first we get into the, understanding of what intimacy is about before we go deeper into it.
Okay, like I guess you have heard of like most people relate intimacy in terms sexually, okay, or sexual. But like in this day and age, there's this thing called bromance, okay, the brotherhood, and so on and so forth. So it is not just sexually and stuff, but like it's sometimes it's a bond, and how close you are with a certain few people while you're like some of them like while they're drinking, some of them while they're doing sports, some of them is while they're doing their hobbies. So there is many types of intimacy that goes on. Intimacy is more of like you being bonded in a deep way. So there are many types of intimacy. So for us, we kind of like found out that intimacy, you can talk about intellectual intimacy in the sense that there are few people that you can talk about really deep stuff with. And when talk about sometimes it's activity where it's like they're playmates. Like there's a bunch of people that I play basketball with that like we've been playing for 20 years plus together. We talk about stuff, and that's the bunch that we hang out and just talk about that. Of course, relationship is another level of intimacy where you're talking about you can open up your heart if possible, or like you're talking about yes, sexual intimacy. There's one on it. There's many levels, but like mainly the boys usually have a play intimacy where they have a bunch of people where they play with, or sometimes their partner is the one that they play with. That's one thing, and usually the other part they talk about is usually sexual intimacy with their partner or non-partner. So that's the two things I talk about. Then the girls is different. Jacy.
Yes. So for women personally, I would say not many of us really think about what intimacy means to us. In fact, different words like relationship, marriage, commitment. And we go into relationships thinking that our partner has the same definition as us. But what marriage means to me may mean something very different to my partner. What commitment means to me may mean something different to my partner. Similarly, what intimacy means to me may mean something different to my partner. But we don't really have that conversation with our partner, and we come into each other's space. Like I have my reality box. Just imagine I have this box and I'm going around wearing this box just like my hat.
Right.
And he has a different box. The closer we get together, this box is going to clash because we have different values, we have different beliefs, we have different principles. And because of those differences, and if you are not able to handle those differences, then there's definitely going to be a lot of friction. Right? But if we are able to work as a couple through these differences, then that's where we can learn how to dance together with each other. So for women, typically, I speak for myself, what I look forward to in intimacy is emotional intimacy. I would want to have an emotionally available man. Someone who does not see expressing emotions as being weak or being vulnerable, but he's able to be like a solid rock there for me when I go through my own internal turmoil. So that is an emotional connection. So some of my girlfriends say, I can't just, jump into bed whenever you want to. I don't just, switch on and switch off. I need to get into the mood, but you're not creating that mood for me. So we have different needs, and sometimes we do not communicate those needs. And because of that, there becomes a wall that just gets erected between you. And you find that, how come this person doesn't understand me anymore? So you imagine the time when men, you are thinking about proposing to your girl. What do? You put in a lot of effort, right? You want to create the mood, the scene, everything to look absolutely perfect. After the marriage, do you still do that? Do you still take the effort to put in all your energy, your intellectual brilliance to create the same mood for her? So that's really something to think about, and why there is a gap in intimacy, because we may have been taking things for granted.
Mm-hmm. Well, that is kind of like the difference of how men and women are made differently. The man is kind of the hunter. They hunt, they get the subject, that's it, done. I've done my job. I stop.
Right.
Well, it's like, but no. For the women, it's like, hey, I thought that this is kind of like going to last forever. It's just not the 2 years where you're courting me. It's going to last forever. But no. It's until you're done, courted, done. Close case. No longer all the other stuff, extra proposal. No, that's done. You're done. You're mine. That's it. On end of story. So a lot of that function that way. So a lot of effort is expected So this is the picture you show me before I become yours. Now it's no longer like that. They are like, surprise. So that's where the mismatch of expectation happened for many, many cases. That's one. Two, as well as like men have different needs and women have different needs. Like just now when you talk about, okay, emotional before sexual, there's a women need. Man is like sexual before emotional. Once they get that, then they can have that. So it's totally on the opposite side. So when that's where the mismatch is. So it's about understanding this mismatch and how we can weave it through so this couple can build more intimacy. So I'm just putting it that much across because that we can do deeper. Depends if there's any questions from the crowd.
Right. Okay. So we are definitely going to go a lot deeper. We are beginning to see the differences and how, I like the what Jacy put the boxes that we carry and then we start clashing because we're carrying the boxes. And, the difference like Terence just said, how we think and how guys think and how girls think. Emotion first, sex first, it's very different how we're built, right? So let's just say hello to Joseph again, Silva from LinkedIn, and then Anand. Hello, Anand. I think Terence, you know Anand, right? You remember Anand? We have Aaron. We have Reka, who says, "Good afternoon, Martians and fellow Venusians." All right. Okay, cool. Um, let's go on. And what are some, before we get into the subject again, right? The the real tips to rekindle the intimacy, right? What are some of the common causes of irritation between men and women from your experience?
Can you ask the question again?
What are some of the common causes of irritation in a relationship?
Irritated.
Yeah, what causes the small things that slowly grow up. What are the common causes that you have seen so far?
Okay. It's not magic. It's called the fog has disappeared. When you get together the first few years, you have this fog that you cannot see the person's flaw.
Right, right.
After a couple of years, that fog disappeared. Suddenly, you can see it. That's what happened. Is it? Like, how come you're like that? But I'm always like that. I've been like that for the time you know me. No, you're not. I just saw it. How come you're like that? And
You're too real, man.
this behavior irritates me. And like, yeah, I've been doing this for ages, but now it irritates me. In the past, it doesn't. So that's kind of like what happened usually. And this has to do with differences in value, differences in brought up, differences in priorities. This has also got to do with certain belief, expectation. There's many, 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 many things that we can bring into. I'm giving you the broad stroke of it. So that's kind of what usually causes the irritation after that. Plus, one thing I want to bring up that this is what they call your superpower. In the sense that once you get to know this person well enough, you have superpower. So I know which button to press to irritate the hell out of you. And once it's like you're this is like sometimes a bit unconscious. It's like sometimes what he or she does irritates you, but you don't communicate that. You communicate in irritating them back. And when he or she gets irritated, they don't communicate that. They communicate in either the silent treatment or I irritate back you even more. Then the cycle continues. So it's like a game people play. So that's kind of like usually kind of that's what happened. What else you gonna add, Jacy?
Yeah. I would say like what I noticed is like early in the relationship, we tend to be more patient and forgiving, and we may find each other's quirkiness entertaining, right? And just like Terence said, once the fog disappears, you're no longer in cloud nine, you're not elated because of your high hormones, then you suddenly start to see reality as it is, or when you get close to each other, you finally see that maybe this is an opportunity to show more of me to my partner. And actually, this is about building trust. Because when we go on a date, we always want to be the best. We look our best, we smell the best. Everything is done to top-notch quality. We don't want to show the ugly side of us. But as we grow closer together, the unlovable part of us starts to come out. And if we have any upsets that's not cleared, these upsets will start to build up, and therefore the irritation will start to build up as well. Even small things like, okay, you go to the toilet, you put the toilet seat down, but I like the toilet seat up. And then you can start quarreling just because the toilet seat is up or down. Something as simple as that. But those has been habits that we grew up with for 20, 30, 40 years. Do you expect us to change the habit of putting the toilet seat up and down? No. So why do you even get irritated about it? If you want it up, you put it up. If you want it down, you just put it down. But those little things, suddenly it becomes a big thing. And then you find more things start to irritate you. Like, why do you squeeze the toothpaste from the top and why do you squeeze it from the bottom? So you start to notice all these differences. But then once intimacy sort of wavers, then this irritation amplifies. So it's just about being really aware. If those things are really going to irritate you, maybe you want to have different toilet for each other. You have your own toothpaste, I have my own toothpaste. And that's fine, as long as you agree. Because if that's going to be a long-term way to live harmoniously together, then let it be so. Right? But otherwise, for me, I personally create it so that we are able to enjoy each other's differences and play with each other in that same way. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
let me add a bit more before. It's like, if you look at it, the strange thing is this: if you go to an office and if you have like a no men, there's some toilets in the office where it's not female or male toilet, it's just uni toilets. Okay, you go there, you see the toilet seat up, you toilet seat down. You're okay. You're totally okay with the toilet seat up and down. It doesn't, irritates you. But if it at home, it irritates you. It's not a toilet seat. It's you. There is something that has already happened, that you are already irritated. You are just looking for an excuse to fight. You're already upset. There's too many things been swept under the carpet. You're just looking for an excuse to fight. So the toilet seat becomes an excuse, and then you fight. So that is all that happens. Has nothing to do with the toilet seat, but a lot of things, the small issue, it's just that the couples is using an excuse to fight, but they already have stuff.
Right. So how do you know, when you're actually moving apart in a relationship?
One telltale sign is when you stop talking to each other. When your conversations become very surface. Right? Yeah, so that's one of the telltale signs for me. Or, start to ignore each other. Like Terence says, it's a passive-aggressive thing. And, you're just, the things you used to enjoy, you no longer enjoy doing. Right? So those could be some of the telltale signs. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, there's plenty of telltale signs. Like, you used to love to hang out 5 times a week. Now you hang out 1 time a week. And only because you have to, not because you want to. Well, it's not about the doingness, it's the mindset shift. The mindset has shifted from I want to I have to I'm forced to. Can you see that? I want to it becomes I have to do it, then it becomes I'm forced to do it. You can see the mindset shift. So when you talk about like date nights, it's like you want to, you have to, you're forced to. Can you see the mindset shift? So that is kind of what it happens in here. So it's not about just certain actions that make it happen. It is also you notice that your mind is shifting. It shifts from you want to responsibility or duty, and that is kind of a sign that it's already shifting.
Right, right. Okay. So I think then, of course, like when we start moving apart, when you have to the going to the from want to the have to, then it becomes almost like a burden, right? So can couples in at this stage, do something about it to, start back anew? Can can it be done?
Yeah, it can be done. Of course, there are many ways it can be done. There are a lot of processes because, like, it takes 5 6 years to get where you are. It also takes about kind of like us half the time or 1/4 of time to reverse the process. It is like to reverse the process. It is like there's many things. One of it is you need to clean up the past. It's like when people say it's small matter, you don't have to look at it. But the small matter that is piled on bit by bit, it becomes a big matter. Therefore, the fight about the toilet seat and toothbrush and stuff like that, it has nothing to do with it. It's all the small thing that piled on. So it's about also clearing the small thing and really letting the small thing go. And it's totally about forgiveness. Because when I talk about this, it's like some people really want to hold on to the mistakes and choose to fight with that. That's kind of what happened. If they want to fight with that mistake for the rest of their life, there is no more hope in that relationship because they want to hold on to that bullet for good. And in whichever case, there is not much hope the relationship can progress. But if you're saying I'm upset with him, how long do you want to be upset? Okay, another 2 more weeks. Okay, you're done with 2 more weeks. What can you do to make up? Okay, he done this, make up. Good, it's over. Then it's great and it's clear. But like some people choose to like, okay, I'm upset. How long will you be upset for the rest of my life? Then it's a different conversation. So do you get it? Can it be reversed? Yes, it can. So one of it is clearing the past. One of it. There's a couple of things I can share more, but one of it is clearing the past. Anything else you want to add, Jacy?
Yes. Willingness on both sides is very important. If one person is willing and the other person is not, it's going to be quite tough, to be honest. However, it is not impossible. And sometimes it comes to a point where they said, oh, he or she will always be that way. That person will never change. And the blame goes out to that other person. The problem is with that person, but not with us. But if we start to shift our mindset and think, it takes two people to tango. It also takes two people to get upset and argue with each other. So in those moments when we are arguing with each other, there are points when we want to always be right. And therefore, we don't let the other person win. Right? There are points where, like Terence says, we want to get back at the other person. So hurt people. There could be past experiences in relationships that could have created, a sense of betrayal, abandonment, insecurities come up. But we do not share this early in the relationship. And so patterns may start to come back again and again. And that's where we tend to go down into that cycle and we don't know what happened. And somehow it seems like we're always sabotaging our relationships because our past has not been cleared. And we may have put that into our subconscious because it could be a traumatic experience that we do not want to bring up. So those is something like the unlovable part of us that early in the relationship, we may not want to share with our partner because we are afraid to scare them away. Right? But what I feel personally is that if both parties are able to have really heart and deep conversations with each other, be very real. I could have had someone betrayed me in the past, and because of that, when certain behaviors come up, this triggers me. So it could be like when you don't answer your calls, I make certain things mean that you don't love me anymore. And therefore, I get anxious and I have all these stories made up, and I'm afraid that you're going to leave me. So, what would some behaviors be when that insecurities come up? They may want to call you more often just to check, hey, where are you? What have you been doing? So, if you look at those underlying unsaid, unspoken communication, it is fears that is just coming up to trigger the person. But if you're not aware and conscious of it, then it is a surefire way that your relationship is going to go downhill. But if you're able to really say, this comes up for me, when that happened, this is what I made it mean, but it may not be true. So then you can have a much deeper conversation with your partner and says, this may be something that I need to heal for myself, and it's the work that I need to do. Take responsibility for it. And how you can support me is if you could just let me know that you have arrived at a certain place safely. That's all I need to know. Yeah.
Oh, nicely
Anything
said.
you'd like to add, Terence?
Well, it is like basically in this world, they call it, I need to report to my wife. I need to get myself as well. But this is the conversation that comes out. And well, it's like, as Jacy said, it's not about reporting. It's like she has a need. She is insecure. And one thing is, usually is if she doesn't work on herself, on her insecurity, she will forever be insecure. That's a fact because people don't change. So what happens is if you want to continue to be with her, then you just do whatever it takes for her to feel secure. The other part is also another question for the boys, if you're talking about it, would be, what about you that caused her to feel insecure as well? Sometimes people look at it's her, she's so insecure. But it's also, what about me that caused her to be insecure, to feel afraid, to feel all these emotions? I also have a part of in playing, in creating that. But most people don't ask that question. They say, how can we fix her? Or how can we fix him? Or he's insecure. Because this is not just a boy and girl thing. It's like sometimes the boy is so insecure it calls the girl as well. So that happens. So that is where it is. It is like, where am I a part in it? So ownership of creation of the issue is one very important thing to rekindle intimacy. When you don't claim this ownership, then it's you. I didn't do it, and when I didn't do it, I don't have to fix it. That's all.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, how do you know if you are actually going the right direction? You are in an intimate relationship. How do you know?
Well, if you read our book and you do all the questions there, you will know with a lot of clarity.
We will talk about the book after this for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So when you get more into alignment, even in silence, you can feel very close together. Even when you are distant, you can feel very close to each other. But there are couples who are just right next to each other, sleeping in the same bed, and yet there is zero intimacy. Right? So we will know in the heart of hearts if you don't feel there is something missing, that there's no need to have to prove something or to get someone's love. There's no needy part of that, and I feel that you're on the right path. But if you feel that there's a gap, it's also okay. But just to acknowledge that, hey, there's a gap here. I feel that we haven't really had the time to sit down and talk about something very deep and personal, right? So then request for what you need. So the more frequent we have quality conversations, the greater the intimacy, right? It could even be a simple thing as, if physical touch, right? We may assume that to be physically intimate means that we have very close intimacy. But it could be maybe the girl doesn't like to be touched that way. But we assume. We don't communicate that to our partner. So it's really important for us to check in with each other and let them know, I like you to kiss me on my forehead, something like that, to show affection in the morning. So we need to communicate those needs. I love it when you touch me a certain way. Let them know. I do not enjoy it when you touch me a certain way. Let them know. So the more we know and we discover each other, it becomes like you look at each other again from the eyes of wonder and curiosity. Right? So if you find that you're starting to see more of the bad points and start to get irritated, you know that there's already a rift. Terence.
I would say it's just focus. What I notice is this: when at the start of a relationship, people look at all the good stuff. You look at what's so good about this person, what's so good about that person, what's so good about this. Oh, he did this. What's the intention behind it? It's good intention. We look at all the good stuff. After a while, that shifts. Then you look at what's the flaw. And then when the focus is on the flaw, you see the flaws, and then that drifts apart. And if you notice your focus is shifting from all the bad stuff back to the good stuff again, then you're noticing that you're getting more intimate. That's as simple as that. And that is not an easy task. Although I'm saying just focus, but it's not an easy task. It's like it requires a bit of work, inside work. It's not an outside work. So once that work is started, you will see good in the person. And then when you see the good in the person, you want to hang out with the person more. And then it builds up and up and up and up and up. I do not know usually what happens that causes the shift from the good to the bad. But I know that if you're looking at all the bad, but if you start focusing on the good through a few processes that we do, then you can actually start to be more intimate. As simple as that.
Okay, so I think I suppose everything needs some focus and work. For example, even in a company, in a team, people need to work together. And then, for example, working in a team also, there are things to do and processes to help you work together closely, right? It just doesn't happen automatically or it's just not expected. How people get more efficient. Sometimes they need to upgrade certain skills. I suppose in a relationship, we just take all of this for just granted that it just has to be moving on to in the good direction, right? But sometimes we just don't realize because we don't really put a lot of work on the relationship. We do the things around it, right? Things like responsibilities, being a father, being a mother, being a wife, being a husband, bring money to the home, blah blah blah. But we don't actually work on relationship. I think, and when I read the book, I realized there's a lot of work to do also when it comes to building a relationship. So, what are the 3 tips to actually rekindle intimacy in a relationship?
Terence, you want to go first?
I'll start with a couple of things. First, I have talked about clearing the past and forgiveness. There's also something that you need to do present, which is you really, really know your differences. Really get to the core of what's the differences about. And if there's differences, there are differences. Do you accept these differences? If these differences is not accepted, then these differences will be used as an excuse to fight. So when there is fight, of course, there is less intimacy. Intimacy is not like a point to get to. It's a journey. Over time, you go up and you down, and up and down. So these are what we're saying here is like, we're talking about looking at the differences so they can know what the differences. One is accepted. You don't have to fight. Then it is a lot better. So this is one of it. So if you cannot accept the differences, and if you choose not to accept differences, then that's one area you can't. But if you choose to be okay with it, then there will be hope for you. And there will be work done, there will be hope for you too. What I want to point to that's very interesting is this. if you look at all those differences, these values, some of them is not yours. Some of these values are from your parents. You took on these values, right? And your partner has different values too. Where did the values come from? They took it from their parents too. So basically, the differences is between their parents and your parents is having a conversation, and then that's where the differences is. So one of it is like, oh, realizing that this is not my stuff. This is someone else's stuff. And then I'm letting these beliefs go because it's not mine. And being conscious about it. And we look, what do I stand for? Do I believe in these values? And if you do, I'm not really believing in these values. So if it's different, then you have a opportunity to realign those values. When you talk about it, it's aligning values, aligning priorities, aligning beliefs. So that is kind of where I want to start with it. And that's kind of like more deeper work where it's not just the behavior, but it's actually in the belief and thinking. Jacy.
Yes. Relationship, we say, is an inside-out process. Fundamentally, we are responsible for our own happiness. So if you're not feeling happy, do whatever it takes to make yourself happy first. What would you do to take care of yourself and to love yourself? The responsibility of you being happy does not lie with your partner, but your partner can add to your moments of happiness. So that should be the first place that we should start. Yet we take care of our own happiness. And I've shared earlier also, it's the space that we're in. And we also talk about intimacy within an organization with teams. So if you look at your personal relationships and your relationship at work, do you have a safe space that which allows each other to communicate any upsets without the fear of being judged or made wrong? Right? And that I feel is very fundamental in the relationship, whether it's at work or at home. Do you allow them a safe space to make mistakes and make corrections? Right? So that creates a structure for us to feel, wow, no matter what happens, I know I'm safe, I'm protected. Because that we want to create a safe haven at home and also a safe haven in the office. And that's going to take work. That's going to take a lot of understanding. Even at work, we all have different working styles. Some work very fast, some need time. You need to tell them way in advance that you need certain tasks to be completed. And then it drives the fast-paced person absolutely crazy because they want it yesterday. So we need to manage those working styles, knowing that certain people need certain time to plan things so that it's in an orderly fashion. And knowing those needs, we can support each other to bring out the best of each other. So space would be the first area that we look at, our inner space and our outer space. Are we creating the space that allows each other to be who we are without making each other wrong? Loving the lovable parts is very easy, but loving the unlovable parts is very difficult. And that starts with ourselves.
Right. That's I think that's a very powerful one there. Space to allow, right? So first, what Terence said now is accept each other's differences, right? Which is, I think, is very powerful. It's a simple sentence, but it's just very powerful because uh, it's not easy to accept. It's like what JC said. It's easy to accept the lovable parts, but it's not so easy to accept the unlovable parts that Terence pointed out now. You can see after the fog clears, right? So, okay, yeah, the first point is actually allow, give the space and accept each other's differences, right? That's a beginning point of the intimacy, getting into a better, more intimate relationship, right? Okay. And what's the next one?
after accepting and loving the person as he is, or she is, or as she is not, or as he is not, then after you do that, then you want to design a future. It's like most couples say that let's get married. Okay, they're done, they're married. Okay, let's have kids. That's it. So they have two goals: married, get kids, get house. That's it. After that, okay, send kids to school. 4, done. Yeah, that's great goals. But that goal is for the family and for your kids. What about yourself? What is your couple goal in the area of intimacy? When I ask that, they're like, do we need to set goal? We're married. Yeah. It's like, yeah, of course you do. Like, if you don't have an intimacy goal, then what happens is like you lose intimacy. It's like you want to make profit in a business, you set a business goal. You want to have romance and intimacy in your relationship, you set the same goals and create that vision. It's like you're talking about, okay, let's create newness in the sense that vision, like maybe we'll explore a different country every year, or just a different location every year, or depends on your budget. Or we're talking about, let's do a new activity together. And like whether it is like Scrabbles, or whether it's board games, or whether it's go walk in the park, or there is goals, health goals together as a couple. There is finance goals together as a couple. And it's like, if you look at it, one very unique thing about this part of the world is most people have separate bank accounts. My money is my money, your money is your money. It's like, I don't trust you with my money. Yeah. Whereas, if you look at certain countries where the couples are really close together, they only have one bank account, that's it. And there is total trust, there is total, here it's like, if I trust him or her totally with that, I'm going to get, betrayed or something. So there is a lot of that kind of conversation that goes on. So the other thing other than, accepting is now create a future that they can walk into for more goodness and deliciousness if they choose to. Jacy.
Yeah. So initially we touched upon the first point, which is creating the space. And apart from holding a safe space for each other, like we shared, there are different kinds of intimacy: recreational, intellectual, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. So if we take a look at all those space that we have, does it lead to intimacy? What gets in the way of being intimate in all those spaces, and what increases the level of intimacy in those spaces? So that's for the couple to get very clear. Sometimes the priority we place on different types of intimacy is also different. And so there are unmet needs. And those are the differences that Terence was talking about earlier, and aligning those needs. So knowing that maybe for a man, physical intimacy may be very important. How are we willing as his woman to make sure that his physical intimacy is met? And for him to also understand how our emotional needs to be met. And when he understands that, it is easier to align. So the second thing was about structure, right? Do you have relationship goals, and do you have relationship rules? So a lot of time when the fog is there, we create the brightness of future, the dream that we want to have, the dream house, the dream family. Everything is still in the dream mode. But do we also plan for breakdowns to happen? This is something I feel is really missing in a lot of relationships. And then we do not know how to handle the upsets and the breakdowns. So do you really know that when you are sad, what do you need in those moments? When you're angry, what do you need in those moments? Right? Before the breakdown actually happens. Like for me, early in my relationship, I'm in a long distance relationship. Right? We got into a disagreement on Skype. And here I am wanting to express all my upsets, the things that I went through, and then suddenly he disappeared. He just left the chat. I was like, what happened? And he didn't come back for at least half a day.
Oh, no.
So here I am making up all kinds of stories when both of us are upset, emotionally charged, and it wasn't helping. Those stories that I was making up was not helping. So later on, I just calmed myself down, and I finally got that he just said, he said, I just needed to go on a power walk. Right. So he just walked around the garden many, many, many times until that charged energy got discharged. And says, now I can have a proper conversation with you from the space of responsibility. And I really appreciated that. So now I know that when he gets angry, he needs his power walk. He needs that space to just go and discharge so that we can come back together and have the conversation that will move our relationship forward. So those are relationship rules, which I feel is very important to have. So my number one relationship rule is that we commit to resolution. No matter what happens, if both of us are fighting, we both apologize to each other for creating that argument and that fight. And we let go of ego. From there, we can come to a space where we can have a conversation of, okay, what actually happened? What was missing? And what can we do next? So it shifts the argument forward very, very fast. And we get off, all these upsets quickly. Another rule I have is to make sure we don't sleep with any upsets. If we do, we make sure, okay, I'm gonna stay upset with you for the next 3 days. I need 3 days to cool down. So you just let each other know I need 3 days to cool down and go do what we need to do, get clear, and come back. So that is the structure that you can create in your relationship. But a lot of times we do not have this structure to fall back on. So if you have space and you have structure, and you don't have one more key, then all your plans cannot work. So we'll share with you what the next key is.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
When Jacy talk about the next key, it's like you talk about three things. Like the last thing that we'll talk about would be support, and that's kind of like what is missing in this part of the world. They feel that they have these things going on, then the only place they go to is sometimes they talk to their parents, they talk to their friends that my partner is this. They talk about it, and then the friends will give their unsolicited advice of like, you should do this, you should do this, the tactics of this, so how you handle it. This is how you fix the problem. Then they go implement, and then it kind of works. Sometimes it backfires, and so on and so forth. So this is the only support they have in Asia at the moment. And like for us, it's like we are creating this place so that when people are going through stuff, this is where you can get support, where you can find out how to overcome it. Example, when we talk about support, is one of the keys. It's also like you want to go on a date night, you have kids, then yeah, and you have no place to send the kids to. Of course, then they bring the kids out. How can you have a date night where you're running around chasing the kids? And how do you create intimacy in the conversation? The kids are there. Sometimes the kids go tantrum and so on and so forth. Sometimes they say, okay, I'm going for a holiday. They bring the kids. Then they come back for the holiday, even more stressed, even more upset than before. Then they go. So you need support with the kids. Where to create this support? Is there people that you can trust with the kids? And if you choose to not to trust people with your kids, then there's nothing much you can do either, right? You choose to bring them along. So you choose to create that in your relationship. It's all about choice. So it is not about good, bad, but like, what do you allow support? Until when you allow support in your life? So that is kind of what we're talking about. Jacy?
Yeah. Yes. Jamie brought up a good point. So, as a woman, I would get upset if someone were to just leave the conversation, in the middle of a heated argument. And really, it's some men are really not able to handle an emotionally charged conversation. And it is also for the women to understand that maybe right now they are not ready for it. So what can we do as women? We may need to find our girlfriends. I have a venting partner. If I need to vent and say all the curse word that I want to say and not feel judged, I know she's not going to tell anyone about it. Find a venting partner. If you can't find a venting partner, go into a quiet room and just vent all you need. But just get that out of the system. You sometimes just need to talk it out. So the support doesn't necessarily have to come from your partner, because this guy could be really uncomfortable being with emotions. You know how some men are like a rock, a stone? No feelings, nothing, no emotions show on their face. But we still love them. For some reason, we still love them. There's something about them. But I can really say an emotionally available man is a very sexy man to me. If he's able to be with me when I'm angry or when I'm sad, and my emotions can be very intense, but he's able to have that capacity to make me feel safe and secure. So, men, you don't have to fix our problem when we are sharing it with you. We just need to get it out of our system. We don't want you to fix it. So just be there, just listen. And most of the time, all I need is just to be cuddled, right? Just a hug, that reassurance. That's all I need. But so it's really important for us to express our need. And if we can't get that need met from our partner, if we are unconscious, we will go find it somewhere else, right? So when we find it somewhere else, it could be an unhealthy drama that we create. But if we have the right structure and we tell them, when I'm angry, I know that you are uncomfortable with having this conversation when I'm emotionally charged. What I need is I need to go see my girlfriend or whoever and to just have a girl talk and get it out. So he knows that that is the process she needs to take care of herself. Right? So we need to raise our level of consciousness and not make the poor guy wrong, because he really cannot handle those emotions. He doesn't know what to do. And when men cannot fix the problem and at time they feel hopeless, that feels very disempowering to him. And he doesn't want to say it. Right? So we need to empower him. If we want him to increase his capacity to be with us emotionally, then there could be times when we are sad, we're crying, and he just holds us there. It's just, exactly, this is just what I need. Reassure him that he's doing the right thing in that moment. Positive reinforcement. Then he feels, oh wow, I made a difference in her day. I didn't have to say anything, but she feels better. Right? So the woman must give him, Venus, you have to give him that positive reinforcement so that he builds that muscle for himself. And you'll find that he will be truly a transformed man just by you saying all those words. Yeah. I don't know, is that true for both of you, since you are the Martians here?
You raised a good point just now, right? About when, let's say, a woman is venting, right? Saying, getting upset emotionally, and the men start giving a solution how to handle that problem, right? And when I read the book Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, the right way to handle that is actually um, by just listening and not giving a solution. Yeah, you should do solution A, you should use solution B. It's very different, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the whole point of all these differences is like, at that point in time, what does she need? She
Right.
just needs to be heard, that she speaks and someone is hearing her. At that point, what does she needs is, she's in pain. I want to save her from pain. So how to save her from pain? I solve the problem. It is just that, like, basically, the intention behind it is great. It's just that what he does is not what she needs. That's all. And some of the conversation will become like, oh, there she goes crazy again. They make up stories because he doesn't know that she's going through her process. But if he knows that she is doing what she do so that she can get it out of her, and then she'll be okay after that. So by me just standing there and listening, it'll be good enough. That okay, now okay, I'm doing this. I'm going to do this so that she can feel better. So at least she knows that I'm fixing it. It is still that need that she is doing it and fixing it, but he doesn't know or she doesn't know unless it's communicated. We don't know for every individual. Their strategies of expression and needs are different. So, like, we really want to work with people to find out what's their needs so that it can be a lot better for them in their relationship.
Right. Okay. So here we have another point by Joseph. When I'm upset, I go into my man cave first. Once I cool down, I'll come out to talk responsibly and calmly. Right? So sometimes when men are upset, they tend to be quiet or then tend to withdraw into themselves, or we call it the cave, right? And then women want to talk during the time. So, this is one of the key differences. What do you think about this part? Very interesting what Joseph said.
It's like it all depends. Okay, this is one of the strategy the man need. It's like, okay, I do not know how to process my anger, so I go to a place where it's quiet, or I go for a walk to feel it all out, and then I don't feel it anymore. Then I can have a what I call conscious conversation. It's not from anger. Where else, some is like they need to express it there and then and fight it all out and vent it all out. Or some is like they cannot be with it and they cannot handle it being alone. They have to go and fight it all out just to get it all out. And that's all different in how people deal with emotions. It's all different from men, women, and whether they like to attack or whether they like to suffer or whether they like to avoid and all these things. It is all different. So it's about finding which one are you and communicate that with your partner. So it's like it's like what really upset that I see is like I'm halfway talking to the person walks off and ignore me. That is why the crazy things happen even more. Every time I want to communicate my upset, he walks away and go into his room and hide. I'm like, what's wrong with him? It's like I'm talking halfway. There's no respect. But the thing is like he's already up to here, and if he goes above, maybe he goes violent or he goes crazy or whatever. We don't know what goes on inside. But the only way he knows is like the pressure relief valve is go into that cave, lock the door, and just let the pressure goes off. That's kind of what it's all about. But it's like all this way where we handle emotions is not communicated, that we don't know our partner well enough so that we know, oh, he's doing this thing so that he can come back loving. That is what we don't know. Oh, he's like going crazy so that he can be loving later. We don't know that until it's communicated. Now we know, oh, she's doing that so that, okay, I'm expecting a good thing later. So it's good. I can handle this. We don't know that, but it's because it's never taught. It's never communicated. There's no, a lot of information about that out there.
Right. Okay. So, yeah, Jacy, you want to add something there?
Yeah, I was saying that we each have our different automatic survival mechanism, right? What we do in those moments. And perhaps those mechanisms may have worked in the past, but it may not work. It may work in the past when we are single, but it may not work when we are a couple. So the thing is to also be willing to explore different ways for us to handle those emotions, and that's why we are also why we chose to bring the Mars Venus to Malaysia, because this education or this level of awareness and consciousness was not really available. It was not okay to have conversations about relationships, right? And our purpose is to make it okay to have conversations over the dinner table about relationships. It's about really things that matters. sometimes it's just a mind blowing that we can talk about breakdowns in business, we can talk about breakdowns in finance, we find a financial guru, a business guru, but we don't find a relationship guru, you know. But sometimes we'll say, oh, this is very personal to me, and how I solve matters is may not be how you solve matters. That's fine. How about just being open and curious that maybe there's another way that you were not present to before. And by knowing that, now you have additional tools. It's like going to the gym and working out. You first work with tools that you may be more comfortable with. But then you reach to a certain point in your relationship whereby those tools cannot work anymore and you need different tools. And that's what we are here for. So ask for the support you need from people you know who are doing it, right? If you ask for relationship advice from couples who have fights and are not resolving it, then why are you going to them for? They're not giving you the best advice, right? And for me, I find that it's the questions that we ask will lead you to your own answers. You will start to discover your own answers and what works. Test it out. You know, if it works, great. We use this as our tool. If it doesn't work, okay, just let it go. Right. So as a couple, be willing to explore and discover. And that is what will keep the relationship and the conversations very exciting.
Right. I think it's very interesting, what you put about the fact that in business or when we're doing work, we actually tend to upskill ourselves in many ways. We tend to spend money. We look for the financial gurus, as you said, to do something. But, we always put the relationship at the back burner. Is not as important as that business deal or the upgrading our systems and doing better at work and all that. I think it's a good point that we all have to spend some time and some effort and some money probably in upgrading our relationships also. So Apama Devi has said that I think we in Malaysia are very lucky to have family and friends where we can leave our children with periodical date nights are so important. Yeah. All right. And then Jamie is the other author, the third author. We have Terence, we have Jamie, and we have Jacy, right? So Jamie said, is it healthy to vent at your partner and use bad words at each other? I feel that may ruin the relationship. Better to vent with girlfriends.
Well, this all depends. If some of the partners are okay, no, their partners are really okay because they can really they say they can until they can't, and they don't know when that can to can't shifts, and sometimes the things becomes very personal, and then it becomes like an attack, and then it doesn't work. So some of these things is better with a person not other than your partner. Some of the things that yes. If the partner doesn't take it personal, or like the major thing is like the person is like it's like the person is not listening. It's not it's of your vent. Then if you don't feel hurt, then you need to vent some more. Say it again until it's hurt. So it becomes like nagging and so on and so forth. So it all depends whether does your partner have the capacity or not to be with you when you express what you need to express. If your partner doesn't have the capacity, it does not work.
Okay, that's a very good point, right? One is the person is good for the other person to listen, but it cannot be over their capacity, right? So then if it's more, then they can get violent or they can get nasty or things like that, right?
No, they react. That's all. How they react.
Yeah. Okay, so there are many ways of how people react, but I think on the other side is they can also work to upgrade their capacity to listen when it comes to difficult things lah.
Yeah, and it's like I've been working with a lot of entrepreneurs, especially like business owners, and like most of them say that okay, they pay money to work on their business goals. Okay, and when we work for about 6 months period, the first 4 weeks is usually about their business, this, that. after after the first month or so, is about their wife, their kids, their mother-in-law, their father-in-law that drives them crazy, all the other things. All these things that they don't talk about is actually affecting their business. So, and because they can handle business fine, but all these other things is taking them away from their business. That's why, like, and this has been a pattern for the last 10, 15 years that I work with people. It is all about their relationship, their kids, their parenting style, and their extended family, because all this is in the equation. Business things you can solve, family things you can't solve. That's what's in their mind all the time. So if they don't get support from the family things, then they don't have the capacity to work on their business things.
Yeah. So what you are not working on can be actually a big block to the entire growth of everything.
Yeah, the whole ecosystem.
Yeah. So Joseph Ang said, forgot to mention earlier, request time out before going into the cave.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Let me give a notice that you're going into your cave. Okay. And your
Absolutely agree.
wonderful advice, Jacy, being curious, explore and discover.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just also want to address Jamie's question about venting to your partner.
Yeah.
My question would be, what would your intention be in that communication?
Mm-hmm.
If the venting is to put the partner down, you know it's going to disempower the person, you know it's going to
Right.
trigger the person, then you know better what to do and what not to do, right? But if you are communicating from a very different space, my personal advice is to discharge that highly charged energy first to a point where both of you can have a responsible conversation. And that will move things forward, because once things are said in your unconscious state of venting, you cannot take it back. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So really choose what is important. Right? The conversations are very important. And if you have kids, they may be hearing you.
Yeah.
Right? So just think about that. Choose to have, that's why it's important to have these relationship rules when breakdown happens. Yes, Joseph called time out. You need your time out. I give that to you. I need my time out. How much time? 30 minutes,
Mm.
1 hour, 1 day. I'm really angry with you. I'm going to need to take 1 week off. I'm going back to my house in my hometown and be with my mom first. I'll vent it all out to her. Whatever, right? But really be conscious of your communication and your intention, right? Yeah. But when I say venting to your partner, it's usually because something happened at work and you just need someone to vent to at home, right?
Yeah.
And this is where a little bit of spirituality comes in that I do with my partner. At times when we get emotionally charged, there are things that happen at work. We vent. What we do is a little bit of a Reiki, if you know what Reiki is, energy. So we discharge the energy by just doing this with our hands 9 times, having a salt bath or something so you get that energy out, walking out on the grass, hugging a tree. That's one way to discharge those energies. So a little bit of spirituality may come in, depends what will support you. Could be also meditation. So it really depends on the couple and at what level you're at in your relationship.
And one thing to add is this: venting is not smackdown. Some people think that it is the time where you stand there, I'm going to beat the hell out of you with my emotions and words. It's not a smackdown. Venting is venting.
Yeah.
Smackdown is smackdown.
Yeah, it's not WWF.
It's different.
And smackdowns are always, it creates a negative result at the end, right?
Yeah, it is like you want to. You're basically saying that I want the person to be tied up and not fight back, so I can smack the person down. And that's something else. So there is more behind it. That we say like we talk about deeper work. Yeah, there's more stuff behind it. That's
Right.
all.
Yeah,
Okay.
do the work with your partner. I did a lot of work with my partner in order for us to really know what's going on, to understand what was unsaid, and suddenly it's like, oh, now I know why you do that. So from that space, we know, okay, when I do this, it triggers him, but it's not about me. It's about something that happened in the past that he needs to heal. Then I can be there to support him a lot better. Same thing for him. When I get triggered, he knows what my triggers are. Yeah. So do the work together. If you're both willing to do it, then that's great. If you're not, then you may need to make different choices in your relationship. Yeah. Do
Okay.
you want to be in a toxic environment? Are you creating a toxic environment? So that again comes into space.
Okay. So, friends, those who are here, and if you want to ask some questions, we're going to, slowly finish the show today. So, if you have some questions, just post it out so that Terence and Jacy can help to answer. So, in the meantime, I would just like to show the book that they recently wrote. Maybe Terence or Jacy, you can just share a little bit about the book, what is in the book, and also the event that is coming up soon in December, Mars and Venus, right? Maybe you can share a little bit about that. I'm going to just put up the poster and maybe you can share, right? Just hold on a second. First, the book, The Dance of Intimacy in Three Steps. This is the book that they recently wrote. It's written by Terence, Jacy, and Jamie, who's also here in the comments section, right? So I'm just going to take it off and perhaps you can just say a few words about this book, what is in the book, and how does it help couples.
Terence, you want to go ahead?
Okay. It just looks at all everything is said in today. We look at every single area: your past, your present, what is the role you play, what is in your mind. So it's just about having a lot of questions that nobody asked, so you're clear what's really going on, and then and as well as have this exercise with your partner. It's a workbook. It's not a book for you to read and like, oh, it's all about that. No, it's a workbook for you to actually do the work with your partner to get clear what's really going on. What do you need when I'm upset? This is what I need. When you're upset, oh, you need a cave. I need a hug. You need a cave. Good. Give me a hug, then you go to your cave. Something like that. So it's about communicating that so you know what you need. But this is not. If no one asked those questions, you wouldn't know. No one tell you about it. So that's kind of like we want to write this book so that people know, and then they can actually don't go through so much unnecessary stuff that they go through. So the book is about that. Do you see what else you want to add on to it?
Yes, it's really discovering your box. What's your box, what's in your box, and what is in each other's box. Right? And sometimes we just keep things in the box and not show it to our partner until it's way too late. And that's when we find there's no intimacy at all. Because, even after spending 10, 20, 30 years together, you suddenly say, I just don't know you, But if we keep inviting our partner to see what's in the box and to be excited at what's in the box, then yes, there's something that you can work on. Right. So that's really what the book is about. Giving you can do it yourself. So for those of you who love doing it yourself, go through the book step by step. You can reach out to us for support if you need. Right. And you'll see how we can support you in that way.
Yeah, we have a Facebook group. We have a Facebook group, so you can go there and ask questions in there. So like we can actually answer your questions in there. We are creating that Facebook as a support for local Malaysians, so that they have questions for those that's open enough to ask for now. And then we will do our best to answer all your questions that you have in the situation. It's kind of like our version of Dear Telma.
Dear Thelma. So perhaps you could also just share the Facebook group down in the comment section. So anyone who wants to join, can anyone join the Facebook group?
Yes, anyone can join the Facebook group. It's a Facebook page.
It's a Facebook page, right? Okay, maybe
Later
if you
on,
have,
you'll actually start a Facebook group, and
Right.
that's where you can have more personal conversations regarding intimacy. But if you like certain topics for us to talk about, you can also send us a note, and we can address those topics.
Right. So when you can, just give us the link for their Facebook group. So anyone who is interested. And how do they buy the book if they want to buy the book?
Oh, For now, those of you who are listening on this call, because you're here with Vyasa and us, you just need to, later on, Vyasa, you'll be showing the link. So you can just go on the link, fill in your details, and we will send a free copy of the book to you.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay,
That's out.
so right, Apama has said life is tough enough on your own, but more with a lifelong partner. Investing in building the relationship is key. Not hoping it will work out, not just hoping that it will work out all right. Okay, nicely said.
Yes, yes.
And one of the biggest mistakes we make in a marriage is that we are so busy building our family when children are young that we forget to build husband and wife relationship, leaving a void.
Yes.
When kids leave home, we do not know who our partner is. Okay, very interesting.
Yep.
If we are lucky, we can continue from where we left. Otherwise, we live like strangers.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Very powerful indeed. Very real.
True.
Very real. I've seen that a lot happening. Thanks for sharing, Apuma. And let me just share again the event that is coming up. Jacy, Terence, let me just share this. This one is the Mars and Venus collide. Okay. Perhaps Terence and Jacy, you would like to say it's on December 4th or December 5th Malaysian time, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. I'll just take it off. Maybe y'all can share a little bit of what's going to happen in this event.
Terence, go ahead.
Yeah, Mars and Venus collide is about why male and females fight. How do they fight? Why do they fight? And how different it is. John Gray always do a very good job saying the male needs this, 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 the female needs a different set of things. And when all these things are not actually done properly, they fight and they collide just because it's just differences. How the male is differently and how the female is differently, that's how they fight. And it's about understanding these differences and say, oh, he's doing that again. Okay, this is his male thing. Good. Now I accept the male as male. The male is not like us female. Okay, or the female or the male is understanding, okay, the female is doing their thing again. This is not personal. This is they doing their thing. And after they are done doing their thing, they'll be fine. Then let's talk again. So it's about knowing all these differences so that when they fight, it's not a personal and they don't go as a personal attack and just understanding the gender differences because it's made very differently.
Okay. So, Jacy, do you want to add something there?
Well, I would really recommend for couples to attend this workshop together. It will make a big difference because, rather than one person hearing it and doing the work in a way, the best is for both of you to do it. But if not, one person come, there's a first step and it's a very big step. And if you want to create a deeper level of connection and conversation with your partner, then this could be it. Start to make relationship conversations okay. It's not a unique problem for you, but the more we talk about it, the more we can create greater understanding with each other and to enjoy the journey of discovering Mars and discovering Venus. Right?
Yeah.
So we need to rekindle that excitement, that newness. And this, for me, created newness in my relationship that I've been in for the last 14 years. Right? I'm always thinking, okay, how can I generate more intimacy? That is on the top of my mind in my relationship. So we're always thinking of ways to do that. And that keeps the relationship exciting. So if you don't have that in the top of your mind, chances are you're heading down stagnancy, boring, and looking for distractions and drama elsewhere. And that is a surefire way to create a breakup. So you choose what you want in your relationship. No matter where you are right now, you can make a difference if you see that there is a possibility. But if you don't, then all the best to you. You will have the learning experiences
final
until
comment.
you decide not to have it, right? What can I say? Some people need to feel a lot of pain before they start to take action. I just hope you don't go through all that pain. So please, you do not need to go through all that pain because You may have kids, they may be watching, they may be picking that up, and they may make it mean this is what relationship is. Do you want to create that kind of relationship for them because you're their role model? So really think about that. Right? Sweeping things under the carpet is not working. Hiding it in the closet is not working. Asking the people who are not having the kind of relationship you want is not working. So come for the program on the 5th of December.
It's next week Saturday, right? At 11 a.m., right?
Yeah.
And of course, that's Malaysian time. And Teresa has said, "Hi, taking stock of the consistent issues in a positive is a
Yeah,
positive step to recognize the relationship blind spot." Right. Okay.
absolutely.
Nicely said. And Apama Devi has asked the question, "What do you do when your other half tells you you need to attend? I'm fine."
It's okay. Just go
Yep.
do it.
Good question. Good question, Apama.
The most powerful thing is this. Most people think it's not their problem, it's my partner's problem. That is where the problem is. It's
Yeah.
not my problem, but my partner's problem. You can't clap with one hand. You need both. The both of you created this together, and that's how it works. Both of you create this together. And both of you are responsible to create the fight. Both of you are responsible to create the situation, the issues, and so on and so forth. And yes, people say that it's not my problem, but like this is where you really, really want to have a deep conversation with being responsible for creating the issue. So you cannot say that it's just that it's your problem and you should go and attend, because that's kind of what I experience with a lot of people all the time. And that doesn't solve the problem. It needs two hands. It's like one person wants to work on a relationship, the other person does not want to. That is a sign that something's happening.
Right.
Yeah. And in saying that, my experience working with a lot of mentors, I am very blessed to have mentors, and sometimes they say they see things that I do not see, and then they will say, "JC, go and do some clearing and some healing." And I used to get ticked off when I heard that. Is it so? The problem is with me, not with you. It's same thing when your partner says you should go see a therapist or a counselor. I'm fine. The problem's not with me. And why not take it from a different point of view? Maybe that person is giving you some feedback that at that point in time is not nice to hear. But if you are okay with it and come from the space of being curious instead of being furious and says, okay, there may be something here that maybe I'm not hearing that he or she is trying to communicate with me. And he says that I should go for this program or to see a counselor or therapist. There could be something there for me to heal. And that could be the work that I need to do for myself. So rather than being angry, why not take it on and says, you know what? I think you're right. I'll go and attend this first, and I'll see what I learned from there, and that I could put back into our relationship to see how it's going to make it work. Would that be good for you? And when I do that, would you be willing to support me? And I have a very different conversation than saying, oh, you think the problem's with me and not with you? It comes from a very different space. So what you have done in the past, having that block and defense come up first may not work. Why not try to embrace it and see what happens next?
Right. So, so Apama has said you are right. If the other doesn't come, we should go to get empowered.
Yeah. Go love
said.
yourself, take care of yourself first. Make yourself happy.
Yeah, it's just one step forward for the relationship, right? If anyone starts taking a step.
Yeah,
Very nice.
it's like Jacy says, sometimes it's like, what can we do if our partner is not open? It's like, we can change. The only person that can shift and change is us. And where the partner is unwilling to shift, they might be never willing to shift. The only person that can shift is us. So we can actually shift from being stuck or being resigned in the relationship to being open and being positive and being empowered in it. So as long as we shift, we change, the partner will change. That is kind of like how it secretly works mostly sometimes. when you shift yourself.
So change starts with us, right?
Yep.
1%.
Yep.
And the person is me. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so friends, we are coming up to the end of the show right now. Again, let me just share the banner again. If you want to, go for the event, if you want to go and get the book free, right? Just click on this link and type in your name. I think that's a good start. I've read the book. There is a lot of work to do for sure. I can see there are a lot of very nice tips. One of them I saw is like how we want to be loved. Okay, that's very interesting. We have so many different ways, and we think the other person knows, or we think the other person likes to be loved the same way we want to be loved, which is, way is a frequent wrong assumption. And there are a lot of other areas, and very interesting the tips and tricks. I think we should all get the book. It was very insightful for me. Right. So if anyone wants to go for the book or for the event, upcoming event, just click on the link below, the tinyurl.com MVCSB Live. Right. So Terence, Jacy, would you like to say anything before we end the show today?
Yeah, I say be curious, be courageous, and be contagious. As you do the work yourself, you inspire others who may be struggling through their own relationship. So be the light for someone else.
Now, I guess it's really being open to really take stock. What I really got after working with a lot of people is like, realize this: the person that goes to sleep next to you may not be the same person that wakes up, because people change, and people do change over time. The person you marry is not the same person now; they have changed. But if we see them as the same person as 20 years ago, 5 years ago, or something like that, we don't see them now. Therefore, we don't know the person now. So it's about, if you have that lenses that you are actually being with a new person every day, you have a process of discovery and knowing and understanding. So it's about rediscover your partner. That's as much I can leave with you.
All right. Thanks, Terence. Thanks, Jacy.
Thank you.
Joseph also says thanks. Thank you, Terence, Jacy, and Yasa. Right. So, friends, we are coming to the end of the show right now. Thank you very much for following us, following our talk today, our conversation. It's very interesting, very insightful. A lot of interesting insights I got in this short conversation. I'm sure there's a lot of other things that Terence and Jacy like to share, but I think we can actually start by reading the book first. And if you can, I think also just check out that event that is they have shared just now. All right. With that, we will say bye bye. Bye, Terence, JC.
Thank
We
you.
all can just stay on after this show ends for a short while. So we will just say bye to everybody right now. Bye bye.
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 Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
Remember
Thanksgiving.
to appreciate what you appreciate appreciates.
Bye.